Yes guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, FPL Coach here, also known as Coach Indy. On today's episode, I'm going to be looking at my Game Week 7 score, which I did quite well, which we'll dive into a little bit later on. Also going to be touching on some injury news. Now there's some interesting injury bits that have sort of happened over the last week or so, might affect your transfers going forward and possible wildcards and that kind of thing in terms of Game Week 8 and beyond. And then you're going to look at my early thoughts in terms of what transfers I'm thinking, if it's going to be a single transfer, or it's going to be a double transfer, all that kind of thing. So if you like this type of video, please do drop it a like and let's dive into the video. Okay, so moving on to my Game Week 7 score, which was a 57. It's going to run through the team. So Sanchez in goal picks up 6 points for me. Clean sheet at home to Arsenal. No bonus points, no extra points in terms of saves, etc. But still 6 points. Very, very happy. Moving on to the midfield then. Ben White picks up 7 points for me in the 0-0 draw away to Brighton. Picked up 1 bonus point for me, so happy days. Livramento picked up 4 points. Got the assist for the penalty 1. Ward-Prowse dispatched. Must admit I was a bit lucky here because he was my first sub. Basuma was actually in my starting lineup, so he came off my bench and got me 4 points. Luke Shaw picked up 2 in the 1-1 draw home to Everton, and then Rudiger also picked up 2 in the 3-1 win at home to Southampton. He was my transfer in this week as well, so okay, didn't get the clean sheet this week, but very happy to have him going forward. Moving on to the midfield then. Mason Greenwood picks up 1 point in the 1-1 draw at home to Everton. He also picked up a yellow card, that's why he got 1 point. Bruno Fernandes picked up 5 for me. He got the assist for Martial goal, which I'm quite happy about. Smith Rowe picks up 3 points. 1 point for the clean sheet for the midfielder. And then Mo Salah picked up 13 points for me. Goal and assist, and then some bonus points as well. So happy with that. Moving on to the strikers. Jimenez I bought in 3 weeks ago. The last 2 weeks he's returned quite well for me. Last week with a goal. This week he's picked up 2 assists and a couple of bonus points as well. So he's picked up 10 points. And then Lukaku, who was my captain this week, he picked up 4, and I was quite disappointed with that. But then you bear in mind how many captains there would have been for Ronaldo, for Rafinha, for Antonio, etc. None of them really scored anything significant either. There's only really Mo Salah and Son that really sort of, and maybe Jimenez if people went Jimenez as well. So overall, really, really happy with that. And then on the bench, nothing to shout home about there. Actually, Brandon Williams did play in this game. Obviously, you touched on Basuma earlier. Perika's not in the game, although I've had him since Game Week 1. And then Ben Foster picked up 2 points for me. So overall points is 460. My ranks climbed up to 245, 286 from about 480. Touched on the amount of points I scored for Game Week 7, which was 57. Squad value is 100.9. Got 0.3 in the bank. Used 1 transfer this week. I haven't got any extra additional transfers going into Game Week 8, sorry. I've used 6 transfers so far. So all in all, quite happy with this so far. 245k after Game Week 7. Good position sort of attack going forward. Okay, so moving on to some obvious sort of injury news, suspensions and other could be COVID related, family bereavements, etc. have occurred over the last week or so that might affect our transfers in and outs going into Game Week 8 and beyond. So we knew about Trent. He obviously picked up that groin injury prior to the Champions League game, and then later in the week he's declared not fit for the Man City game. Now, for me, you've got to wait for Klopp's press conference, what he says on that Friday afternoon prior to the early kick-off. I believe they have on the Saturday away to Watford. Talking about their fixtures, so they've got Watford away next, and they've got United away, and then Brighton at home. So a mixed sort of next 3, but then beyond that is quite nice for Liverpool. If he is fit, he's an absolute get-in. So if you did get rid of him this week, make sure, well, hopefully you plan to sort of get him back in if he is declared fit. Ward-Prowse, he obviously picked up that red card away to Chelsea. He's going to miss 3 games. So 2 of those are going to be league games. One's going to be a League Cup game. So he'll be back for the Watford game away from home. He's going to miss the Leeds game at home and Burnley game at home. The reason why I sort of mentioned him is because I don't think he's an FPL asset directly, but he has effect on other players. And what I mean by that is him and Romeo in particular in that midfield, they block, screen and slide a lot. They do a lot of doggy work out of possession, and they help the centre halves and even the fullbacks quite a lot when they sort of attack, and they can sort of cover their position. So I do think maybe the likes of Livramento, for example, if you have got him, or you think about bringing him in, they become a little bit less likely, sort of the clean sheets are less likely to sort of come their way. Doesn't mean their attacking returns won't happen, but you just got to bear that in mind that if you were hoping for clean sheets, I think they're less likely to happen now. He's going to be suspended for a couple of games. And the last one is just Josh King of Watford. He picked up a knee injury. I think it was a challenge with Llorente. He should be back for game week 8, possibly game week 9. Their fixtures over the short term aren't great. They've got Liverpool at home, Everton away, and then Southampton at home. And then beyond that isn't great either. The other thing to sort of mention is if you have sold him, obviously that's your decision, that's fine. If you're thinking about bringing him in, I would hold fire because Watford have sacked their manager. New manager's come in, so obviously you don't know exactly who's going to be brought in terms of starting lineups, etc. So that's something to bear in mind. Hold fire on that, and just wait maybe a week or two, and then if you are looking to bring in a third striker and he's still playing, then yeah, bring him in by all means. Okay, so moving on to some mid-term injury, suspensions and other. Now, I would describe a mid-term injury to be anywhere between sort of a month and 6 weeks, depending on what the injury is. Now, I know Marcus Rashford's probably been out for a little bit longer. But the reason why I sort of mentioning him and the other two as well, actually, is because they're all kind of on the mend, and I've actually got them all penciled back for game week 8. Obviously, shoulder injury is what Rashford has had for the last, well, since probably Christmas last year, and sort of carried it through the second half of the season and into the Euros, and obviously hasn't played this season, but he can have an effect on in terms of what other Manchester United assets you do have. So if you've got a Greenwood or a Ronaldo or a Bruno, for example, just bear in mind minutes probably get shared around even more so. I mean, the minutes are being shared quite a lot as it is because United's sort of depth in the attack in advanced areas. But now Rashford's fit, Ollie really likes him. He's a fan's favourite as well. Minutes will be shared even more so. So just bear that in mind. Then you look at Ilkay Gundogan, their fixtures going forward. Burnley at home, Brighton away, Palace at home. Very, very nice. And beyond game week 10 as well, they are very, very good for City. He's had a bit of a knee/thigh injury. I'm not entirely sure what it is. But obviously you've had De Bruyne, you've had Foden come back recently. You've got to bear in mind if you are thinking about bringing in full Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, you've got Grealish already, these minutes will get shared because if you've got Grealish, you think actually Gundogan's never going to play out wide. But got to bear in mind now Foden's fit, he might play in sort of centre midfield where Gundogan would normally play as a sort of a double 8 if you like on the left hand side where sort of Bernardo's been playing. So it just thickens up their squad even more, which means it's probably more rotation and more Pep roulette as well. So, and then Leon Bailey as well. So the reason why I mentioned him, he hasn't played loads. He had that cameo a few weeks ago where he come on and scored a brace. Their fixtures going forward, Wolves at home, nice fixture, and then Arsenal away, West Ham at home, some difficult fixtures there. But how that might affect your decision making going forward, like Bailey, I wouldn't say he's an asset just yet, obviously because he's not fit, but it probably mean whilst he is out, the two strikers, Ings and Watkins, are going to play together. So it's not going to be a case of one of those play and then you play three behind, i.e. Buendia, Traore and Leon Bailey. So because he's out, and I think Traore might be out, he might be just be back now, I'm not sure, it's more likely to keep, or more likely that Dean Smith plays the two strikers together. So indirectly has an effect on the two strikers, in my opinion. So just bear that in mind going forward in terms of what you're going to do. If you have got, Danny Ings or a Watkins, or you think about jumping on Watkins, for example, or a Buendia, they can affect these types of players. So, okay, so these are my early transfer thoughts and plans for game week 8 and beyond. So I have 3 possible scenarios here. Option 1 is 1 free transfer, which we'll run through now in the most likely scenario. So Mason Greenwood out for Rafinha. Touching on Manchester United, so their fixtures going forward in the next 3, Leicester away, Liverpool at home and Spurs away isn't great. And then beyond that isn't great either. On top of that, United's form isn't brilliant, very much indifferent. And on top of that, Cavani and now Rashford are both going to be fit as well. So there's likely to be even more risk and rotation in terms of those advanced players. And then Rafinha, who underlying statistics this season has been brilliant so far, in a team that hasn't really performed greatly so far this season. So imagine when Leeds sort of do turn it on and they get their players back in terms of defensive players and midfielders, etc. Even Patrick Bamford, his underlying statistics will be even further and even greater. So their fixtures going forward: Southampton away, Wolves at home, and Norwich away. 3 really good fixtures on paper, and beyond that it is good as well. So I do really like this thought and this idea as an option. It also gives me flexibility in terms of having 1.7 million in the bank. That gives me maneuverability to jump on players in any type of position, whether it be goalkeeper, even defenders, midfielders or strikers. So just gives me that flexibility. Obviously anything can happen in terms of COVID and injuries and that kind of thing. So you've got to be flexible. That's why I've got 3 scenarios here. Okay, so moving on to option number 2 now. This would be for a -4. I would see this as a more an aggressive move, and the more and more I think about it, I'm kind of liking it a lot more as well. So this would be for a -4. The Greenwood deal for Rafinha would absolutely still happen, so that's sort of in the bank if you like. Then it'll be Luke Shaw out for Alonso. Now, reason why Luke Shaw, I think United's fixtures, obviously we know about those. His form isn't quite there at the moment as well, and I think that's partly down to the team also. And obviously beyond game week 10 isn't great either. But bringing in Alonso, for me, is quite an aggressive move. For me, he's the most likely, along with Trent in the league, in terms of defenders, who's most likely to get a big haul in the league. So for me, it wouldn't surprise me if you got an 18, 20, 22 pointer in these sort of run of games, if you like. So they've got Brentford away from home, which will be actually quite a tricky game in my opinion. But then Norwich at home, Newcastle away, and then beyond that there's a sea of green as well. So there's some nice fixtures going forward. Now, some people will say rotation risk, Chilwell's now back in the frame, now that he's played some minutes in the last couple of games. I get that, honestly do get that. But for me, as long as you've got the bench to cover it, and you're happy that every now and then he might get benched, and you've got the defenders to cover it, that's absolutely fine. On top of that, I don't think there's any risk of him coming off the bench to get a 1 pointer, or him going off after 55 minutes or whatever, or 65 minutes. I think if he starts, he plays 90, he's on the bench, he doesn't come on at all unless there's any injuries or suspension. So the other thing as well, it only leaves me 0.6 million in the bank, sorry, so it leaves me less manoeuvrability, less flexibility to jump on players whenever needed. So that's kind of my initial sort of second option, if you like. And the third option, which I haven't prepared on a slide, but I'm just going to briefly mention, is wildcard. Now, the reason why I'm saying wildcard is I don't really want to use it. I want to use it in either game week 9 or 15. But obviously anything can happen during the international break, injuries, obviously COVID stuff, quarantine issues, that kind of thing as well. So you've got to be open-minded to potentially using your wildcard as well. So that for me is how I'm looking at the situation at the moment. So there you have it, guys. That is another FPL video in the bag for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, found it insightful, maybe gained some knowledge from it also. Let me know in the comments below if you think option 1's a good choice for me. Do you think option 2 is too aggressive or not aggressive enough? Do you think I should be using a wildcard possibly in game week 8, or is it a smart play to leave it in the back pocket for game week 9 or possibly game week 15? There is going to be another video, a wildcard draft video, probably later this week or the early part of next week for you guys. So check that out also, just for those who are on wildcards. Last thing to mention is, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so and pass this video on to other people who are in the FPL community. I would really massively appreciate the support. I love making videos for you guys. Click that like button as well. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. It helps sort of land on other people's feeds more often. And obviously the more people it reaches, the more likes I get, etc. Then obviously more people is going to view my channel, and hopefully more subscribers as well. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I will see everybody in the next video.